Welcome, everybody, to the first day of an amazing 14-week course that I'm glad you signed up for. You might be thinking to yourself, what is this? What did I actually sign up for? Who's this guy speaking in front of me? And why is he saying that we can save the world one organization at a time? Well, let's get into it a little bit because let's talk about cybersecurity, its impact on small businesses, and to be frank, let's do an introduction to the course. But first, if you don't think you're saving the world by focusing in on small businesses, small nonprofits, think again. 48% of all Americans work for small businesses, right? That's a huge part of our economy. 44% of all U.S. economic activity comes from these. Now, I want you to just imagine what would happen to you, what would happen to opportunities, what would happen to this country, if not the world, if 44% of the U.S. economic activity suddenly vanished. Let's be more realistic. Let's just say 10% of the U.S. economic activity vanished. That's crazy. And you think, 43% of all cyber attacks are targeted toward these small businesses. That seems high, but the reality is that's the truth. And the problem is this, and this is the important part of the course. 66% of all small business decision makers don't believe they're actually big enough to be targeted. Yet, when we look back, we already know that over 40% of cyber attacks occur against them. We know, self-reported, 88% of small business owners state that they're not prepared. And here's the kicker. And this is why it's important. Within 6 months, according to the SEC, 60% of those small businesses, small nonprofits who are hit by a successful cyber attack go out of business. That's crazy. And here's the reason why. $200,000. That's the average cost to a small business for a successful cyber attack to be able to mitigate that. And that's why they go broke. That's why they close up in 6 months. What are we going to do about it? Well, we're going to get into that in the course. We're going to talk a little bit about this, and we're going to go into the practicum and hopefully get you excited about what you're going to do. But first, before we do that, you're probably thinking, who's this old guy in front of you? Why should I be listening to him? Well, besides having led part of a presidential major initiative, I specifically focused in on cybersecurity across a numerous number of industries. One being the London Metropolitan Police, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. You might know them as Mounties. We launched a cybersecurity toolkit across all of law enforcement aimed at helping small businesses and individuals. Worked with PIR. If you don't know what PIR is, it is the .org. It controls all of the .orgs. It's the backbone of that type of registry and that type of system. Then work with Accenture. If you're not familiar with DARPA, that does high risk, high reward type research for the U.S. government. Imagine GPS, night vision. Did the same for IARPA, which is within obviously the intelligence community. Did work with MasterCard, founded 3 companies, have had 3 exits. I got my graduate degrees from Combs. I also got another graduate degree from Johns Hopkins. And so I'm hoping as I take you through this course, as you learn from me, and to be frank, as I learn from you, that you have an understanding of where I've come from, the experiences that I have, and how we're going to meld that together into what we're going to be doing over the course of the semester. But we have to start with a very important part of linguistics. Small businesses, when I use that, are both small to medium-sized nonprofits as well as small businesses. And let me explain why. Every nonprofit, and by the way, if I start a global nonprofit now with offices in London, New York City, Singapore, and also Brussels, every nonprofit has to operate itself as a business. Sure, it doesn't have a profit motive, but don't fool yourself. The minute a nonprofit has no more money to spend, it can't pay its people. It can't do the work it's been out there to do, and it has to close up, just like a business. So every nonprofit has to operate with business fundamentals associated with it. They just did not have to do that with a profit motive. So when you hear me use that, understand that they are interchangeable, and I want you to think about that and kind of change your mind in the way you view nonprofits versus small businesses, the way you view a private sector business versus a nonprofit business. So let's talk about a little bit about the meat and potatoes of this course, right? And what you're going to go through and what you're going to learn. The first is this, is one of the major issues you find with a lot of cybersecurity professionals is that they actually don't understand business. They don't understand the concerns, especially of small business concerns, right? There's a ton that goes on there, whether it's payroll, whether it's invoicing, whether it's cash flow, whether it's receipts from donors. There's a ton audits that are on the mind of leaders and small businesses. And so getting cybersecurity to bubble up to be of a concern, be of something that they're actually going to do, that's difficult. And so you need to understand, first and foremost, those small business concerns. What is happening? The second part of this is what I'm hoping that you're going to take away, is that you're going to learn a consulting methodology, which works globally. This is important because it's a way to interact, to convince, to help prod, to help bring those individuals along so that not only can you explain the importance of cybersecurity, you can also get them to act in a manner and in a way that is conducive to protecting themselves and is what you want to do at the end of the day. Last part is we're going to talk about tools that you can use. And I really want to focus on the free tools that small businesses can implement, which are also easy to implement. We have to take out that friction. One part is the money part. The other part is the time part, the ability to actually do what we're going to do. And the last part is we're going to put everything you learn into practice. You're going to be going through a practicum, and you should be excited because you're going to be interacting and doing more than just sitting and learning, sitting and doing presentations. You're going to get out there, and you're actually going to do some good. And I hope you're excited about that. At the end of the day, we really need to understand a couple different things. The course's rhythm is a 14-week course. Now, first class, we're going to take you in. We're going to help learn on some forming exercises because we're going to be splitting into groups today. And these groups you're going to carry on with you for the entirety of the 14 weeks. The next couple of courses we're going to be going through are actual courses that are going to help introduce you to the space, help you learn. And the first one we're really going to get into, and as I said before, this is the important part about it, is the introduction to small businesses and the nonprofit space. Once again, you have to understand the industry. You have to understand the concerns of the people with whom you're speaking in order to help convince them that what you're telling them to do is the right course of action for them. This goes into what are the cybersecurity threats facing small businesses and nonprofits. It's important to understand not just what the small businesses and nonprofits are thinking, but it's also to understand what threats they actually face. The fourth class is going to be a group presentation. We're going to focus on a selected cybersecurity attack. I'm going to assign you some well-known cybersecurity attacks, and you're going to go in depth. You're going to learn this. I'm going to give you the presentation format. I'm going to give you the things that I hope you focus on. But I want you to take this any which way you can, as long as you do the foundational aspects of the presentation, right? As long as you get the key points. I want you to go. I want you to have fun. I want you to study. After that, we're going to talk about consulting methodology, and we're going to do a group practice, right? I want to help train you in this methodology because now you've learned about the concerns of small businesses. You've learned about the threats that they're facing. You've gone through and you have an understanding of a cybersecurity attack. Now it's time to put that stuff into practice. Sixth one, we're going to start getting into guest speakers. I'm going to bring in the former CISO of Sony. That should be very exciting. We're going to have a great conversation with him. The seventh class, right, we're going to have you pitch your consulting practices, right? Each one of these groups is going to be given a practicum. You're going to be given a company, an individual to work with. And so you need to understand, what is that consulting practice? What are your core competencies that you're going to be able to bring to these businesses to help them? So not everybody is going to have the same consulting practice because not everybody in this class is the same. Not every group has the same core competencies. So I want you to understand, this is an individual part. I want you to think about the type of consulting practice, what you're going to do. It's really important. I hope you take this further, by the way, into your professional lives. Class A, we're going to have a guest panel. This really is focusing on small businesses and nonprofits, specifically in this area. We're going to have Astrolabs, huge global accelerator, and also a venture fund. I have Tiger Financial, the owner of that. That is traditionally a small business as well. And then Shalom Austin, which is a nonprofit in this area that serves the Jewish community and is large. That's going to be a good conversation. I really hope you come. The ninth class is going to be the practicum assignment, right? You're going to get your assigned companies, your assigned individuals to reach out to, and then you're going to work on that, right? And we're going to work as this both as groups, as individuals, and make sure that we are ready to hit the ground running. Class 10, that's going to be a free class. Now, I'm going to be in class, so if you have any questions, you want to come in, you want to chat, you want to work on things, I'm here. However, my hope is I want to give you a full dedicated week because I know you're going to be busy. So I want to give you that at least one class so that you can meet with your company, you can meet with your nonprofit, and you start going through what you're going to do in the practicum. It's really important. You don't have to do it that week, but my hope is at the very latest, you're getting it done that week. After that, next class, we're going to do presentations. These are your practical reports on what you are solving and what your approach is going to be. These are important, right? We're going to give feedback as a class. I'm going to give feedback as your lecturer, as your professor, and we're going to have a good back and forth on it. And that's going to be important to help guide you through the remaining weeks. Class 12, we're going to have a guest speaker, MSK2 CEO. It's going to be very exciting. His company has been on the Fortune fastest growing companies now for several different years, works nationally. So this is very interesting because he still is a small, medium-sized business. I'll give you kind of the breadth of what we're talking about when we talk about Tiger Financial, which is, one person and plus a couple others, to MSK2, which is a very sizable company in Astro Labs, which kind of fits in the middle. Class 13, we're going to do group presentations on selected industry cybersecurity threats and mitigations. Now, hopefully this is as close as we can do for your practicum so that they mix together. But the reality is that you're going to be assigned an industry. You're going to be able to research those cybersecurity threats, and you're going to look into the mitigations of what you're going to recommend, and you're going to present those. The last one is a report out. It's practitioner's report presentation. And the reason why this is important, not just for you to be able to highlight, expose, show what you've done, be proud of what you've done, what you've been able to achieve, but also many times when you're going in to help businesses, when you're going in that consulting mindset, you want to do a report that is given back out to your client so that you can help them understand what has been done. And by the way, cybersecurity instances, incident reports, things that happen, there are always reports back out to leadership so that you can help them understand what was done and what they can do to mitigate those concerns in the future. And so this is going to be the course's rhythm. Now, we might change a little bit because I want to make sure this is as applicable to you all as possible. But in general, this is going to be the rhythm that we stick with. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, man, I don't know if this really fits, right? Am I the right person? I kind of maybe got to this course thinking it was something else, but now I don't know what I'm doing. Well, don't worry. You're fit. If you're a computer scientist, great, you're going to get into the nitty gritty. That's fantastic. If you understand business operations, fantastic. You're going to help bridge the gap between the computer scientists and the non-technical operators, right? You're going to be able to speak their language, understand their concerns. You're going to be able to bring the two people together. Being that person in the middle of the glue is just as important as that computer scientist. Are you a cybersecurity expert? Well, there's no such thing. And I'm going to take you back to one of my favorite quotes from Game of Thrones. Any man who must say, I am the king is no true king. Sure, there are very, very smart people when it comes to cybersecurity, and I've worked with them. There are people who are the best experts at what they do in a very narrow sense. But a cybersecurity expert, few and far between, and the reality is most people who ever refer to themselves as experts, regardless if it's cybersecurity or anything else, probably aren't an expert. If somebody tells you they're an expert, if they tell you they're great, you can believe them. We're also going to learn some tools of the trade. And don't worry if you don't know them at this point in time, right? We're going to get into managed DNS services, one of the main ways we can help protect. We're going to get into phishing and email compromise ways to be able to protect them. By the way, phishing is still the number one way in which cyber security attacks are successful. And lastly, we're going to talk about the number one attack vector, which is you and I, humans. And we're going to talk about what we can actually do to help mitigate that number one attack vector. We'll get into some different tools. We'll get into some different ideas. But at the end of the day, remember, we're dealing with small businesses, smaller nonprofits, companies that aren't capable of having SOCs, Security Operations Centers, NOCs, Network Operations Centers, right? They're not these type of companies. So we're going to talk about tools that are easily understandable, easily implementable, and either don't cost money or cost a very minimal amount of money.